Child, y'all know I've been doing some digging, right? According to Jeffrey, he was a journalist that was added to the war group text. He said it was about 18 people in that group. So I put together the faces of the high-ranking officials that were in the group. Mike is the White House National Security Advisor. It was Mike Waltz who added Jeffrey Goldberg to the group text. The journalist. But it was the unqualified guy who runs the Pentagon now. This guy allies thinking right now. Matter of fact, I feel the same damn way Pete felt in 2016 when he said this about Hillary Clinton in reference to her emails.
Law enforcement and military, there are sources you have or others when they are worried that our leaders may be exposing them because of their gross negligence or their recklessness in handling information.
Well, hell, there's nothing else to say in reference to that. He took the words right out of my damn mouth. Goldberg said that he received a connection request on Signal on March the 11th from Mike Waltz. And then on March the 13th, he was added to the group chat. Goldberg stayed in that group chat until the 15th, after they did the airstrikes. The VP was hesitant about the strike. Check it out. After they completed the airstrike, they congratulated each other. I mean, look, Michael Waltz.
We're going to go ahead and go on
in. He sent emojis. Wow.
Was shared with a journalist in the Atlantic, and were those details classified?
All right. Wow.
Ain't that something?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. Man, apologize for a little technical difficulty there. We're just trying to bring y'all a little bit of more information here, and who's qualified and ain't none unqualified.
The show's, and that's why the show is titled Unqualified.
Exactly. I mean,
these people are so unqualified for their position, but hey, this is what y'all voted for.
Well, when you got an unqualified person in the White House, what can you expect?
Oh, well.
Like minds bring like minds. Mm-hmm. Like minds bring like minds.
All right.
All right. Well, anyway, as you guys have heard, maybe some of you have heard, some of you had not, about the fiasco that went on about leaked information. Okay, that got out there that about an attack, in the Gaza area, and it got out by text message. And that's text messaging
on an app.
On national defense. Can you believe that? I mean, this is the qualification that we have in the White House. I mean, it is, So should we be shocked? Nah, not really. I'm sure there's going to be more to come of unqualified issues that are happening each and every day. What do you think, babe?
I think this is the most craziest thing that you could have ever thought that anybody who had any brains would have thought not to do. Right. They were talking about an airstrike that was going to happen, and sure enough, it happened. Not even thinking about the fact that there were people already prepared to go out and do service, to do their mission, but you putting it out there for somebody, because anybody could tap into whatever that you are, to anything that you're doing on your phone or whatever. Yeah. But the fact is, it was a group text. They invited certain people, but then they invited this reporter, and he reported on this. And that's how I feel the story had gotten out, that these fools were talking and a group text that was just really that blown their cover.
Mhm.
So the saddest thing about this is, though, and I hate to say this, though, but it does put America in a bit of a pickle with its allies, because now that whoever comes with top secret, any type of information, these people are going to be afraid to send it over to anybody within that works for the government, especially for the Trump administration, because
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, will our information be exposed to whoever it's going to be exposed to? This puts a nail in the coffin if we could be trusted within the world about anything at this point, because you have what I would say, and they cannot blame DEI for this. There's no DEI there. There's a bunch of white men that are now involved in this now, so there is no DEI blame in this.
Right.
I ain't seen no black, no woman, no Hispanic, no nobody. The last time I saw all of that is when Obama called Osama bin Laden.
Right.
When that happened, then that was DEI, and at least that wasn't put out for everybody to know about until the mission was completed. So I hate to say this, but these people they're really unqualified. They're really unqualified for what they thought they were best suited for, and they're not suited for this.
I mean,
they're not.
I don't understand how. Well, I do understand how these people got there. Okay, because their allegiance to the clown. Okay, but and making it bigger than a 3-ring circus. It has 3 rings. So you got the Senate, the Congress, the Senate, the Congress, and the executive branch. A 3-ring circus going on. And the supporting clowns coming out of the clown car each and every week, with the lead of Mike Johnson.
Well, they lied in their interview, their job interview. They lied in front of the cameras with the job interview that was supposed to set them up for whatever they were supposed to be set up for, because we all knew within them being interviewed by the intelligence and all, the Congress, you knew these people they weren't worth nothing. They weren't worth the time, nor the day, nor the hour. Now it's being shown because they're embarrassed.
Right.
They're so embarrassed. Trump is so embarrassed. He is not even taking any accountability for this. The only thing he's saying is that he did not know. He did not know.
Well, that's a good cop-out excuse. I mean, it's a complete cop-out excuse. I mean, what's the best thing you do to get out of something? Oh, I didn't know. That's what he did all that.
Most business people do say, I did not know.
I didn't know.
When a worker comes in and complains about a situation on the job, I didn't know.
Right. So that's the easiest cop. That's the easiest cop out. So you can't be held liable for what you did know. Well, but then again, you got a president they got a president that don't know. He didn't know the first time. He sure ain't gonna know the second time.
You're a businessman.
That's how you got elected on being a businessman.
That's right.
So the U.S. is becoming his business project.
That's right.
Okay, that's what it is. The U.S. has now become a business project. And that's a shame. Even down to the other one came up the other day, monetizing the Easter egg hunt at the White House. Now, y'all, come on. Really? Really?
Yeah, I can believe it.
Monetizing the Easter egg hunt at the White House.
I can believe it.
And y'all voted for him. Not y'all that follow us typically, but y'all voted for this man. I'm sorry. I'm just... Oh my God, I'm just so overwhelmed. But as we've been saying, quite a bit here lately, is that make sure that you've got a plan in mind for your life, for your family, for yourself, okay? Because it will instantly become something that you don't want it to become. Okay? Hey, we just saying one day we're going to be broadcasting from Italy, okay? Okay,
broadcasting from somewhere
outside of the U.S. But now the other thing that came up to us, speaking of enjoyment, there are 3 states that wants to join Canada now. Did you see that one?
I did not see that, and I would not be surprised.
3 states are on the upswing to be being a part of Canada.
Are we one of them states?
Hey, I thought about Washington, Oregon, and California.
We're about to look. We're really a little close. We're really a lot close.
Really close. And Vancouver's like a sneeze away. So hey, that's what I thought about. I thought about Washington, Oregon, and California. So we'll see in the coming days.
We will see.
But there is the talk that 3 states are considering leaving the U.S. and joining Canada.
All right, then if we're one of these states, so that means we will have free socialized health care.
Yeah, well.
Thank God. That would be the great thing, but that would be the greatest thing for us who really would need that in our lives right now, because now that's so monetized at this point. Not only monetized, but now it has become not a public situation. It's now more private.
Right.
Because the Republicans are wanting to privatize the insurance companies right now so they can get something out of it.
Right.
And that right there, just like them getting rid of the Department of Education, is now going to be a business right now. Right. So for those who would need it, it's going to be hard. Right. People who need their medication, people who need to find doctors. Right.
Didn't you say the other day that you were in one of the stores you service and some lady was in there fussing because her
no, actually it was a clip on that came through my algorithm. This girl whose mother usually goes into CVS and gets her medication and realizes that whatever the cap that Biden put on the prices of medication has been lifted. Now she's having to pay $2,000 for her medication.
And that's her insult.
So it's and hey, but can we? I mean,
and I always seem to draw pause at this moment in thinking or get deep in thought to say that what can we do as American citizens at this point? Because the voting option is gone right now. You got to wait 2 whole years before you can vote somebody else in and out.
Well, the judges who been appointed by Biden are now doing the heavy lifting right now. All the American people need to do is organize, find out who represents them. And to be honest with you, they just got I would say it starts with your pocketbooks, honestly. I think it's a great idea that most of these organizations are some of these program organizations, I want to say, but I want to say something else. These I want to say radical organizations are trying to find out businesses and certain businesses and certain other, plethora of other things who support this nonsense. Because I think it's great that, we hit certain businesses in their pockets. Right. I think we need to hit more businesses in their pockets. I think, honestly, when it boils down to it, I think mostly Americans need to find ways to support their mom and pops. Right. And get away from, the big commercial businesses, which I know that is that would be a great utopia to do that. It would be a great situation where we could do something of that nature. But you do have certain ones that are not going to get away from going into their Target, their Walmarts, their Home Goods. But it would be great if we were all organized and we had a common common ground and what we should be doing and how to maintain and organize. But no, it's not going to work out like that.
So we throw this little caption up. I think periodically it's just to have everybody stop and think, on there, and it's kind of in line with what we're talking about. But are we too comfortable?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then are we, as a nation, as a culture, as individuals, and ethnic groups, are we too comfortable? Why are we not challenging the status quo? Why did we not challenge the status quo from the beginning? Or in this comfortability, are people afraid?
I think we're afraid. I think honestly, there are a lot of people that are afraid, and they're not wanting to admit it, but they are afraid.
Right. And once fear grips you, it has you. And it is probably one of the most difficult things in order to get out of your life is when you're in fear or you're in a place of fear. And with this man, I swear we were not going to be spending time talking about him, but unfortunately, it seems like it's going to be the status quo once again, because there's so much shocking events that are going on that we have never expected. We thought the man was already lost his mind anyway, was going to completely lose his mind when he get in, and that is becoming the truth behind the truth. For the denial of not wanting the Project 2025 to happen. It's happening. He's the catalyst of the Project 2025. Oh, it has anything to do with that. I don't know why they're associated me with the Project 2025. I didn't agree to that. Well, your high Hitler man, Steve Bannon, just came on out of prison, just went on with the process, So, and every one of these situations, they're pulling you in. They're not pulling you in. You just I'm trying to say okaying it with a swipe of a pen, But as we said on the show, we weren't going to spend all this time talking about this man, but it seems like that every day there's always something that it has to be on the forefront of any conversation because people are tired.
Well, yeah, people are tired, but this man he's the lead. It was
delusional.
Not delusional. I don't want to admit, but he is the number one top man in this country right now. So we ain't got no other choice but to deal with the fact that he is the president.
Yeah.
But the saddest thing about this is the fact that we said this many times on this show, even prior to the election and even during the election, that there are certain groups that put a lot of backing into Trump. And I said this, and I think we have, like I say, we have said this plenty of times. Trump is going to give these people what they want because they gave him so much in his reelection campaign. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not give these certain organizations like Moms for Liberty? When you talk about trans people and agendas and bathrooms and women's sports, he gave them the executive order. Because they put money behind them.
Yeah.
The same thing with the evangelical right. He is making sure that prayer in certain, probably within the nationwide, prayer will be back in schools because they put money behind his campaign.
Yes.
The same with with some other organizations. The people who were dead against abortion. I mean, he is doing what they want him to do because there was an investment. Yeah. And that right there is what I hate to say this, but he is doing his due diligence with that. And hey, as the American people, how could you not have known that this is what he wasn't going to do? Prior to 2025, he lied his butt off saying that he didn't know nothing of it. You just said it.
Right.
He didn't know nothing of it. But Steve Bannon and a whole bunch of other people who supported this man were writers, not only writers, but they supported the manifesto of this of these writings.
Right.
And they were going to find a way to implement this through his presidency.
Yeah.
And it is coming into fruition. They're trying to mass deportations.
Yeah.
Even down to the fact that they will say that he said this even on Fox. I will take money or defund any school that teaches, critical race theory because of white fragility. And that in itself is very telling. Yeah. Why is that more important than you trying to help out those who really need it? You're snatching away government assistance programs to people who would definitely need it. And why? Right. Because there's an oligarchy class who feels the need to say, well, they don't really need this. You even had the man who runs the Commerce Department of this country saying that they can go a day without getting their Social Security. Yeah. And Lupnick is his name. I think that's his name, Lupnick. And the saddest thing about it is some people are not even offended by that yet. But hey, to each his own. I know people who are on Social Security and who needs that money, and they're not fraudsters either. Right. But hey, if you don't feel at least insulted by the fact that this billionaire went on whatever C-SPAN or whatever and said this and just cavalier with a glee, and he was just gleeful in it. They can go a day without it. And most people who will be shouting and complaining are fraudsters.
Right. It's true.
Okay, then fine.
Make that make sense.
Make it make sense. Because, 1900 to him ain't really shit. Right. But to those, a lot of us cannot live only off of $1,900. Right. But what's going on within the economy, you can't even afford gas, grocery with just that. Or you're going to have to find a way to kind of cut back in order for you to pay your bills.
Well,
So it's so sad.
Someone, and those of you who follow the show quite a bit, you'll probably understand who I'm talking, who will remain nameless for this point. But it brings up a very good point. What you're mentioning about is he had, and very dear to us, he had to make a decision in regards to his mother. Okay, his mother is a senior, of course, and that they had originally moved her into a senior living facility, which was absolutely a nice facility, and all of these other changes. Now she can't afford to be living in the senior facility. So what he had to do is he gave up his place in the meantime, to go and live with her to take care of the house. The original homestead, I think they were renting it out. So he moved actually back home, to his mother's house to help take care of because of the situation that she's experiencing in the senior living facility because she couldn't pay for it.
Wow.
And a very prominent man in Atlanta that had to do this.
Wow.
And he's very dear to me, very dear to you, and for namesake, I'm not going to mention who it is. But, when I found out, I was like, wow. And I thought about this, and I thought about that he would support him, and some of his supporters are Trumpsters, and my question, and some of them watch this show, okay, from time to time. My question to you all that, there's no hate from that you like Trump, whatever, but my question for you at this particular point in time is, do you see what happened? Do you understand what has happened? And this is just one that's, somewhat dear to you, that, that this situation has befallen them, and it's going to be a lot more, and then I had another friend that is dear to me. Well, a relative, I'll put it that way, said to me in conversation, well, and you know who this is. Well, now I can get a job because he got rid of all that DEA shit and stuff. Now I'm getting more phone calls than I ever had in the past year, because when that other president, which will remain nameless, was in office, I wouldn't get nobody to help me out. I'm like, wow. Really? Wow. Really? And I'm like, man, it's like, all of a sudden the shift happened of everything because this man got in the way. Yeah, it is. It shifted its way onto shit. It's what it did. Okay, there's no prosperity happening at this particular point in time for anybody. Now, if you are in that 2%, then you are handling or seeing some level of what you think is being prosperous. Okay, but the majority of people that are dealing with these things are not in that 2%. Okay, and that 2% is most Americans at the end of the day. So, is there prosperity around? No. Is the price of eggs changing? No. And they're talking about now that how inflation is going to hit the grocery market as never before.
Yeah, and I work for the grocery industry. I work in the grocery industry, and they are, I go into stores where I service them, and they're having conversations about things that are happening. People whose hours are going to be cut. And and not only within the stores, but the vendors themselves. It's just the fact that a lot of people's jobs are going to be compromised because of the fact that there is going to be another recession. There's no going around this, because he has made such a kerfluffle with people that we trade with. It's being now said that China is going to find a way to go around the United States to do their trade. And Mexico, and I believe, is in dealings with China to do this too. Because China don't want no business with us. They're trying to find a way to get around all of us, and they will probably do this. Because with all the tariffs, with all of this stuff that's throwing all types of jabs at Mexico, Canada, not only them two, but you got over in Europe. They're even in the text message, the man said, "I can't wait to get away from Europe. I cannot wait for us to really isolate ourselves from them, because we have been doing so much for them." Down to the fact that Pam Bondi even said in the White House press corps, the fact that we talked about the story of the Statue of Liberty, that the French want the Statue of Liberty back.
Right. Yes.
She went as far as to say, well, we had did enough for France. because we had helped them to win against the Nazis in World War II. Forgetting the fact that France went into debt and during the 1700s for helping us to win our independence from Great Britain. They went through a political upheaval where King Louis and Queen Marie Antoinette got their heads cut off. But I mean, I'm just saying the fact that these ignorant people run our country, telling us all of this stuff that they think will stick. But they forget some of us are educated. Right. Some of us know what we know, and we do our research. We go not by what they say, but we listen to what they say, but we go do what we need to do for ourselves. And that is the problem with Americans. That's where we have gotten complacent. Truth behind the truth. This is where we have gotten lazy. We go for what somebody has told us without doing our research.
Yes. Absolutely.
And that's the saddest thing about our. Hey, we talk about our show too. Behind when we come off here, we talk about the reason why people watch podcasts. People love podcasts because there's an agenda that needs to be pushed. Now, our agenda is truth behind the truth. Living it within your authentic truth. Now, we're talking about politics. But we're talking about politics for the simple fact that, at the end of the day, this is very important. Yes. But I know that a lot of people do not watch us because there's an agenda that is not pushed for them, and they don't watch it because of the fact that they need to hear something that will make them say, "Aha, I can be on their ship because they believe in what I believe." We tell you, don't go by what we're telling you. Go do your research.
Take to heart what we're saying. Okay,
but go do your research.
Okay, and find out if it is the truth behind the truth. But you will find it is the truth behind the truth. That's why we named the show The Truth Behind the Truth, because there is a truth behind the truth. How you perceive that, your truth is always important. Whatever reigns true to you is what your truth has to be, regardless of what anybody says. And if following this status quo is your truth, if it's wanting to be a reality and being awoke and understanding what's going on around you, we applaud you. Okay. If your truth is that you think heaven and hell is going to blow up and fire is going to come up on earth and consume everybody here, child, I feel sorry for your truth. But anyway,
my truth behind the truth is I'm a pessimist.
Okay.
I don't go along to get along. I want to know what the heck you're telling me, because anybody people come and have conversations with me on my job, telling me what they know. And you know what I tell them? I hear you, but I'm going to go do my own research. Yes. And if I do see you again, we'll have another different type of conversation, because I just have to do my own research, because I'm hearing what you're saying. I think you might have some, it might be a great hypothesis, but I need to do my own, because I need to know more what you're telling me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree.
I just can't go along to get along. I want to know what you're telling me, and I want to be in cahoots in what you're telling me, because I ain't trying to get caught up in no lie. Right. Because somebody told you what you wanted to hear, now you come and tell me the situation and the 411. But no, not in.
You know what that's called, right? Spreading propaganda.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, useless propaganda. All right, but again, we've grown to a nation that we rely upon, the little devices right here to give out all your information. You think that everything comes across these devices are the absolute truth behind the truth, and it's not. It's preset to program you into thinking something else, because you get snippets and stuff. Now, you'll start seeing more snippets from us going out there, but guess what? There's snippets of the show that we've already talked about, so that we can influence somebody else to perceive or pursue the truth behind the truth. Yeah. And that should be a pursuit. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to sit there and accept it and take it in and say, I've got to make some adjustments in the way I think. Okay. Because the way I think is the direction of where I'm going to end up going. Okay, because I've said this on the show several times, is that you don't make any moves unless you tell yourself it's okay. Think about that. You do nothing until you tell yourself that it's okay. Your brain tells you have a conversation talking to yourself. You have a conversation for whatever that is, and you tell yourself it's okay to go do that. All right. So it's the same process. If you don't choose to go and do any research, you told yourself not to do the research. Okay. If you choose to believe one specific way and not looking at the facts, you told yourself to do that. Power words are powerful, but the words of power are effective on your life first before anything else, because you act that out first. Okay. Because guess what? You told yourself that you could do this or do that or whatever. I told you both about everything that we're talking about right now. You know, process that. But again, encouragement to you is please be identifying. Be identifying what's going on. Now we're gonna move on. We're gonna keep talking about him. All right.
No, we don't have to talk about him, but I would like to. I would like to talk about this too. You talking about making your own choice. We are talking about making your own choices and doing what you need to do.
Right.
You know, I was thinking about when we were talking about the Statue of Liberty, and this is so important, you know. And the guy, I'm gonna find him right now since we're on. Since I brought myself back on this, who was the architect for this? But yeah, give me a minute. It's gonna come to me. But the fact is that the Statue of Liberty is a representation of freedom. His name was Friedrich Auguste Bartholdi, and there is no picture, but he was the guy who did the blueprint, set up the blueprint, and and sculpted the Statue of Liberty. You know, the Statue of Liberty is about freedom. It's about it was a representation for bring in your weary from wherever you were coming from. Wherever you were coming from within wherever in the world, that was a representation of America saying, bring in your tired and your weary. But the one thing we tend to have forgotten, it was never taught to us, is the fact that the representation of that statue was breaking the chains of oppression.
Okay.
If you ever have been to the Statue of Liberty, look at the feet of the Statue of Liberty. And this is also true. That statue was supposed to be, and you can go look this up for yourself, was supposed to be the representation of a slave. But there was a situation, which is always a situation. There was a little battle about that, where there would, because in the original blueprint, the Statue of Liberty was supposed to have chains going down her arms, and she was supposed to be holding the shackles, breaking the shackles. But there was a battle. They didn't want that. So Bartholdi asked, now, I will do this unless you give me this. And this was, I want the chains still present on my statue. The saddest thing about that story is when I was watching something on my Instagram and it came across my algorithm, and the lady said that this black lady said people had asked her to go visit the Statue of Liberty, and she said she would never go visit the Statue of Liberty. And the reason why is that the story that was told from those people who do the actual tourist, the setup, they don't tell the full story. But the fact is the facts. Americans is a representation of those chains, because we have forgotten that we are still chained to a situation, and that the chains have not been broken. Because look who we have now telling us and running this situation, this narrative right now. We thought we had moved past whatever that was holding us back, but it has now come. Really, it's now come and hit us in our face that there are people who are still wanting us to be chained to some form of oppression. And they are wanting, and some people have voted, why don't we give them back the Statue of Liberty? And it's not those who like people who are very progressive. We're talking about MAGA people. MAGA people, they saying, what's the point of us having the Statue of Liberty anyway? Get rid of it.
Because they want to put a statue of him up there.
Thank you. They want to put a statue of Trump on there. But do your research. It's up there for Google. But we have to break our chains. We have to break the chains of this oppression that somebody who we believe have more money, because you have more money, you have more knowledge. Because you have more knowledge, you have the influence. I don't celebrity worship because I don't care to be influenced by anybody because I believe in the greatest love of all is within me.
Yes.
And that is what most of us, most Americans need to understand.
Yes.
That it's not in Trump, and it's not in Oprah, and it's not in whoever that you think is of some form of influence. I love Maya Angelou, but even Maya Angelou would tell you that, baby, you are your own Maya Angelou.
So
and that's
true.
where we as Americans need to really understand, truth behind the truth, that these people who we think are, good people in our minds,
they're not.
they're not.
They are absolutely not.
They're
And
not.
That was a
Break the chains.
break the chain. Seriously, break the chains. There's just so much of a need of just people recognizing, who they are and not following, all of these other myths and, and things that people have conjured up in their heads, and some of it, you know me, I think a lot of it has to do on our religious perspectives, on things and how we are so influenced by that, in that community. There is a picture that I'm going to put up. We got to talk about a few other things real fast before. And since for Christians, we're in the Lent season and leading up to Easter coming up. But I'm going to put this photo up in just a few minutes for you guys. But I want to recognize one person that I think two people actually. But first, someone that went through a lot of rhetoric. Okay. And in the course of that rhetoric was listed as the person that gave the most money ever to charities, and that was this man. Okay. It has been listed. This is a recent article that came out about him because they were talking about charities, and how much, celebrities, quote unquote, contributes to charities. And Michael Jackson came out number one, over $500 million to charities, okay, around the world, and it states 39 different organizations this man supported. The United Negro College Fund, that was top on his list.
Oh yeah, he still holds the record.
Yeah.
Of giving the most
to the United Negro College Fund. That was one of the number ones that was on top of his list. Yeah. And then for we, okay, and I'm gonna say associated, we had people of color didn't even want to honor the man.
They honored him now that year. They did honor him in 1989 or 88 because even Whitney had sung the Lift Every Voice. She sung that the Africa. She was there along with Elizabeth Taylor and all of them. So they did honor him. But I would say this, and this is really pissing me off right now. You can tell that there is still this narrative of him still. And I put it all based on some form of white supremacy. Because even Eddie Griffin said, when you are of any black influence and you will not leave this earth without a caution sign. And I believe Eddie Griffin when he said this. Any black person who has any powerful influence will not leave this earth without a caution sign. And the caution sign for this man will always be pedophile. Even though this man had went through the judicial system.
Yes, he did.
Even though this man had the FBI follow him to almost his dying day, and it is posted on Google.
Yes, he did.
As them saying there was nothing found. They could find anything on his computers or whatever. There is still this narrative that is still flying around. And I said this in some shows back. The first allegations came about around the same time when Jeffrey Epstein was being found out.
Wow.
They were so busy putting this man, crucifying Michael Jackson for around 93 that this international this international billionaire who had an island, who was best friends with who is now president of our United States of America. For a decade, they were best friends. He was being found out as a child trafficker. If you even notice, if you even care to pay attention, he has child traffickers at his home as we speak in Mar-a-Lago. But see, hey, what are we to know? We just little podcasters. But hey, what's his name? Oh my goodness, in the manosphere.
Mm-hmm.
See, you know, you
well, I mean, well, you know,
I'm gonna find his name.
Yeah, go ahead. It's not unlikely that he would have those type of people around him. You know, it's not unlike that he would not have sex offenders around
Tristan
him.
Tate.
Okay.
Yeah, child trafficker.
Okay.
Yeah, that's him. Pedophile, child trafficker. Yeah, that's him.
Right up in his camp.
Tristan Tate, all up in Mar-a-Lago, all up in Florida, to the point that the governor down there was so pissed off that he flew from wherever he flew. But hey, he is there, and
well, you know, there's a lot of legends because they're the one
allegedly. We'll put allegedly, but he did fly into Florida. But we're gonna leave.
There's going to be some more legends that are coming out about the people that are in that administration. Y'all mark my words on this, yeah, okay? But you know what? It's going to come out like, oh, he was just being a man. Really?
Yeah.
He was just being a man.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. So let it be your daughter, your granddaughter. Then let us see if he's going to just be a man at that end of the point, you know, of that. But again, there's so much there. There's so much. Let me move on. All right. So, you know, this week we lost one of the greatest champs around, Mr. George Foreman.
Right,
okay.
Man.
He was the only man on record that gave all of it. Well, he had 4 sons, 6 sons, 5 sons.
He had at least a lot.
But he named everybody named George. Okay, so he left a lot of Georges behind. You know, in and of itself. And actually, he was young. He wasn't really that old for the transition. I don't know what the causes of death was at this point.
Well, you leave it to the maggots. They said he was a big pusher of the vaccination for COVID. They want to blame that.
Oh,
he had 12 children.
12. Wow. Okay.
12 children, wow. And they were all named George, Frida Foreman, Georgette, George, Isabel Byrne. Yeah, he had a lot of Georges. But yeah, they want to blame it on the vaccination. They say he was a big pusher for it, and that might have killed him. That's the conspiracy of the maggots.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
really?
So that's what they're saying out here in these Twitter lands.
Twitter lands.
Okay.
Or
X land.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. It's gonna be an X land. But we want to salute him for all of his accomplishments and and the transitioning out. It seems like a lot of people taking the opportunity to exit out of here. They going. Because I ain't heard nobody say I want to stay. They all left.
Yeah, but they're all, one thing, as far as Angie Stone and Roberta Flack,
yes,
George Foreman, and then you had the actor who died with his wife,
Gene Hackman.
Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
It's
I know we kept saying we were going to talk about these different things, and we got not sidetracked. It just didn't flow into the fact, and you just mentioned Nancy Stone. Just wanted to give her a quick homage, real quick. The picture of Roberta, I don't know where it happened to that, but anyway, these great people. But back to Gene Hackman, I mean, that is still a huge mystery. I mean, to what has happened, because they're saying that he was in the beginning or middle stages of dementia. So the act could have been that he may have left. They don't want to know that it's the gas asphyxiation that he may have left the stove on and didn't realize he left the stove on. Saying his wife was already transitioned at least 5 days beforehand, before he was. Wow. And they were, and it could be that the gas from the home just got to a point where she was taking some medication for something else, and they think that it was the pills, but then she probably fell at that point on the asphyxiation, and the dog got consumed. By the same thing, and then later, it was a week later that he was found, but it's even longer than that, because allegedly that they were saying that he was at mummified.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, he was like virtually going into mummification or something like that. So this meaning he had to be, had to be at least 2 weeks. I mean, because I think the body can go up to 48, 72 hours without necessarily being, but it has to be in a cool environment or whatever. But after that, it starts decomposing, and it happens fast. That's what embalming prevents, and all that, and then taking a dead, taking dead blood out of it and all that. I was going to be a mortician at one time. I changed my mind, but knowing a little bit that I know about it, in and of itself. So, but it is a mystery, and they're still trying to unpack.
Well, they say it's more like foul. Somebody, and then they're saying it's foul play too somewhere in the mix of it. because of money and because
right,
of
because his kid. Now that
allegedly that's what they're saying.
Yeah, that
That's
one
what
comes
they're
out too,
saying.
because none of his kids were left in the will.
But the same thing with Angie Stone, and they're saying there's foul play in that too as well. Allegedly, boiling down to the fact that her trying to get her money from her record company, and oh my gosh, I think that's the saddest story, to be honest with you. Even though she's been sick for some time,
right?
But the fact is that her not having her money and her royalties, it's just wow. How many of these people that they make great music, but they are not being compensated.
Right, but
and
the majority of people, just like I'm kind of combine this in its simplest form to what we talk about all the time and what happened with Angie Stone. The general public seems to assume that because your face gets on a certain platform that you become a multi-millionaire in the industry, and it doesn't work that way. You got these little nasty ass female rappers that get out here because they were pole dancers, and somebody get them, maybe $350,000 to throw up in the air on video, fake $100 bills, okay, and y'all think that they just made it. Y'all think that, but then and then all of a sudden you really find out the truth behind the truth. Is like these people never had money in the first place. For instance, I'm gonna use truth behind the truth. I'm gonna go on another point about Angie Stone. We have a platform. We have had this platform for 5 years. This platform has been clearly funded by these two. Everything we've done. Putting you on blast, not putting you on blast. Y'all ain't send us a dime. I'm sorry. A couple of y'all did send us something. Thank you for those that did.
Please. Yeah,
thank you for those that did. Okay. But those that have been watching and absorbing and everything that we have invested, into bringing great content to you. I ain't never invested. Hey, the email has been there. It's been all those type of things. But guess what? We're going to keep on going, whether you do it or not, because somebody is in line to do it in a big way. Somebody's listening, and somebody's life is being changed. So I'm going to move on off. But I'm going to go back to Angie Stone real quick. So I remember I was working on a film with Angie Stone. And we were, I think we were at Georgia Dome, somewhere down in Atlanta, whatever. And so her and I were walking, we were walking from one place, and I think that what happened, she was done with her scenes, and the production didn't even provide her with a PA to escort her back to her trailer.
You remember the movie?
Oh God, I think it was scary. One of them, the pseudos that they did, and I think Jasmine Guy was in it, and Terry Crews was in it, and all this stuff. Those parody movies that they did. So, but anyway, so we were walking together, and she said, "You know what?" She said, "JB, this is that." She said, "No, I'm just getting to know you," but she said, "This is a shame that I have to walk all the way from one part of this building to the other without any." She said, "I'm so glad I'm walking with you, and thank you for taking the time to make sure that I got to where I was supposed to go."
It was probably called My Other Mother.
No, it wasn't that one.
You sure?
No, it was comedy. It was her and I know Jasmine Guy made an appearance in it as well. And these were like quick, snippet appearances. They were anyway. But so we were walking along, and then and then she, I said, yeah, it was nice to spend time, get to know you. She said, I'm glad you did, and and then she she stopped, she grabbed my arm, and she said, you know what, I had to take this gig. It's not paying me that much money, but she said I had to take this gig. I was like, wow, really? She said, no. You people just don't understand the things that we go through as artists.
Yeah.
And I was really touched by that,
Scary Movie 5.
Scary Movie 5, okay. I was really touched by that, and the fact that she felt that warm moment that we had together, to share that moment. I said, when I just encouraged like I would do anybody else. I said, you know what? It's going to be all right. At some point you will see what you need, to make the next step that you need to make. But I appreciate it. And hey, look, I told her the next time we're going to film together, hey, we're going to be starring together, I guess, but I tried to make her feel better, about that moment that she was experiencing.
But see, that makes me even think about the fact that, when you see these people now at these award shows, I was telling you what that one night we were watching the Oscars, I said, I understand that these people, they feel that they have arrived because their peers have voted for them to win this award.
Right.
But the buying public don't understand that those awards, they really are just trophies. that could be really, if they didn't have any money,
Well,
they're not worth that much of anything almost, unless they hold some relevance, unless they hold something.
Yeah, but the portion of it is gold is actually truly gold, and they are worth something. But I'm sorry, Coach.
Go ahead.
But then there's quite a few actors, okay, that have pawned their Oscars. Because they didn't have any money.
And there are some musicians who have had to pawn their Grammys.
Yeah.
And I said this, the award should be your contract. Yeah. And this is where I'm not throwing off, because this is something that I'm learning.
Right.
And I wouldn't, when you hear stories about Angie Stone, and not only Angie Stone, TLC, Whitney was going through her own situation with her finances. Yeah. Same thing with Michael. Michael put it out there too. Right. Your contract should be your award, because you need to read. They're telling you all the time, read your contracts with the fine cone, because in the bottom small print is really what the information you should look at with a lawyer. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad that you see with new coming faces and new musicians, actors, you hear these stories where I did all of this, but I didn't get compensated. Right. And it was because I had a bad lawyer, I had a bad contract, I had a slave contract. Right. And people still don't get it. They still come into the industry, still not seeing the stories or seeing what it is that you need to look for when you are going out for these big time productions. Right. So and I'm happy that I'm praying that I love Fantasia. I love certain singers. But I'm hoping and praying that they look out for themselves too when it boils down to their finances. Right. Because I don't want to hear these stories again and again and again. Because we know as Black anything, they're not being compensated fairly for what they're doing. Right. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, this is true. Right alongside it, and then we'll wrap up with this other point I want to share. This other point I wanted to bring up. Most of y'all, I'm sure, listen to this person. I was going to say anything. Umar Johnson. Okay,
oh Lord,
the biggest clown on the internet, as far as I'm concerned. Biggest clown. Okay, y'all believe the stuff that you think he's talking about Black empowerment, but I'm not going to get into him right now. Because it's embarrassing. Okay, it really is. It's embarrassing. But
if he was doing it for the right reason, right. Keep going.
So
if he was doing it for the right
he
reason.
makes this whole propaganda thing about Michael Jackson, and in line with Michael Jackson's mother, and then what Michael's son, Blanket, allegedly was trying to sue Catherine for money. Okay, and he put this whole thing out there about how this, that, and the Black, and how Michael should have never had white kids, and blah. That ain't. First of all, Omar, that ain't your damn business. Okay, and whoever else out there saying what he did with his body, whoever he let get his juices, I'll put it that way, that ain't your damn business.
And truth behind the truth, he needs to think about before he should have said that. There's a situation with his own daughter.
Well, okay,
and he should have been He should have been not only speaking on somebody else's situation, but speaking on his own situation, right. Because he has came out and said that she had not seen him nor talked to him. Now, I don't know of the details with his baby mamas, whatever you want to call them.
Baby mamas. Okay,
but that's what he called them.
Okay, but I'm saying about baby mamas.
But the fact is that he should have not have said something on somebody else's situation before clearing his own situation up.
You don't even
truth behind the truth.
That too, and then not even being factual about that, because that was a lie. Okay, Catherine had already been set. Okay, his whole estate was set up by Catherine. He's had trust funds set up for his kids long, and ain't no need to sue nobody, because them kids is billionaires, Mr. Smarto. Okay, them kids will never have to worry about anything, whether they talented or not. Okay, whether they want to go and buy Ferraris, they got the money to buy it. Okay, and Catherine is well taken care of, and that allegedly maybe trying to. Janet is taking care of her mama. Okay, I want you to know, Janet is taking care of her mom. Janet bought a house for her mom a long time ago. All right, so shut up. Okay, let's just stop this. You know what I'm saying? And then where we are with, and we'll pick this up on another show, and where we are with this racial divide among harmony that people find love in each other's different races. I'm sorry, y'all got to stop that shit right now. Okay, black man and a white woman and a black man, Asian man and a black man, blah, 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 blah. All of this stuff. Okay, it is not your business. Okay, if this person or this people find love in that person, shut up. Okay, hey, you just jealous because you ain't found love that same way. All right, at the end of the day, just shut up. Let people live the lives that they feel like is best for them. All right, you can't change nobody. You can't change nobody, how nobody love. Whether that's gay, straight, black, white, black and white together, orange and black together, whatever the case may be. And little do you know that it is already at the point that in the next 75 to 100 years, that it will be the major, dominant human species. I'm using that in that term. Well, it will be multi-racial people. It will be multiracial people, and it's going to continue to grow into multiracialism. Okay, so check your facts. There's the truth behind the truth. All right, but let me get off that. We got to get off.
But also, if this is, and I want to say this too after that, if you are dating outside of your race, please, for those who are dealing whatever, who deal with self-hatred, stop generalizing why you will not date of your own whoever to date somebody that's different from you. No, don't do that. That's not fair, and that is very that's not good.
Well, we're gonna do a show on.
We're gonna do a show on that.
We're gonna do a show on that because
that's not fair.
It isn't, and I think that what happens with that, we can't get into it because that's a good conversation. We're gonna get an expert on that. One of the quick point about what you're saying, I just really think that people, men, typically maybe black men and whoever, they go through so many lack of communicational hurts with people. Okay, so and those hurts are, and it's on both parts. I'm not gonna just blame women of color, but
Lord.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not gonna go down that road today. All right, but the and what happens is that it finds some sort of a healing for them in the other culture. Okay, and it's not about how we see that other culture. That's how they see the other culture, and that's where the position has to remain. And we're just getting way too deep into people's business, way too deep. You're not living with them. You're not going through the experiences. And then if somehow they got the healing and they wanted to express it to say this other group didn't do right by them, let them say it.
Let them say it, but you need to understand though, to be honest with you, don't generalize. Don't generalize a situation because you have had a situation where it fell off, and then all of a sudden I'm now dating this person because this other person is not my type and they were never my type. You don't need to do that in order to get your because at the end of the day, a preference is a preference.
Right. But
I think, to be honest with you, when it boils down to it, just do it for the right reason. I'm gonna leave it right there.
So I'm gonna leave it on generalized. I think
love for the right reason.
Right. But unfortunately, as human beings, we all end up generalizing something or some group all the time.
I know.
And it is a product of the lack of knowledge that we have about whatever that is. Because, we could go into the generalizations of how people look wearing dreads and how they were generalized as being a part of a certain group of people and, and all of the things, So we all generalize for different reasons, okay, that we feel comfortable about that because it gives us some sort of comfort about that generalization, So that makes us feel like, oh, okay, I'm feeling good about it. So, but when it comes down to something that we may have an impasse about what they've said, then it becomes an issue, But we all generalize one way or the other, and it's something that as humans we have to work on. Hey, you got white people that generalize, you got black people, and you got Asian people that generalize, you got Indian people that generalize. And it is all about where we have been taught. Okay, but let me move on to this point of just kind of getting into a little bit of non-generalization. But to say that how we have all been to a point that we are all recognized at the table of God. Okay, this is a portrait. This is a small version. I wish you could have had a little bit of it, but I want you guys to, take a look at this. It's called the Wedding Feast at Canaan. Okay, which was basically a depiction of the wedding when Jesus turned the water into wine. Okay, this was a depiction of this that the French artist did in the 1500s. Okay, the beautiful thing about this is that you got his version or his understanding of who Jesus was, which is the Caucasian Jesus in the middle of the table. But if you look at everybody around him in this portrait, it is all multiracial. And to me, this says that everybody is accepted in the presence of God, no matter what you look like, no matter who you are, no matter what you think, no matter what you do, no matter anything other than no matters, you are all accepted. And for this artist, okay, this is the good point, for this artist to see this, okay, for himself and to be able to port this portrait is, and I've been to the Louvre, this portrait is on a whole wall around the corner from the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. Go on Google. You can Google. You can see it yourself. All right. This is a small version of it. And when I stepped in there and saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what the world needs to see. This is what the world needs to see. And it doesn't matter what faith that you are. Yes, okay, it has a Christian persona because of Jesus being in the center of it. But if you're looking at the spirit of Christ, which should be looking toward anyway, rather than the man, okay, even in the spirit. But everybody around that table was from a different culture. You got Asian, you got Black, you got African, you got all, Chinese. I mean, you got all of these people in this picture. And this portrait, that's just in that picture, portrait. But the amazing thing too is that this artist saw the world this way. There was no way in the world that he could have ever seen these kind of people. No way. Not in the 1500s. Not at all. Because at that point, they were thinking the world was still flat. You know, because you go out, you dip out, you drop over. So how in the world did he actually could come up with this idea? It, to me, is probably should be and represented as one of the greatest portraits of humanity that could ever be, letting everybody know that you are accepted at the table of God. Okay, well, and you can go on religious practices and the way you want to go into it. It still means the same thing. You all are accepted at the table of God. Okay, I'm gonna let you guys marinate on that. We're gonna go out with that, just resting out there in front of you, and say thank you for tuning into the Truth Behind Truth tonight. It has been one of those marvelous shows again. All right, and as Christians are in the celebration of Lent, maybe this is something that you can look at a little bit deeper, into that and understand how this portrait was just so amazing. Think about it. I mean, literally think about it. It's just, I mean, you want to say something about it real quick, babe?
Oh no, I think that was enough said right there.
Yeah,
that was enough said.
So you guys marinate on that, and we will see you back where? The truth behind the truth. Y'all have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. Mm-hmm.